My billionaire CEO husband went still when a strange man texted my phone in New York. Not angry. Not confused. Possessive. His jaw tightened. His hand closed around my wrist. Too gentle to be control. Too firm to be nothing. "Who is that?" he asked. Low, careful, dangerous. Because the name on my screen wasn't someone from my life now. It was someone from before him. From before I became his wife. His nurse. His certainty. And in that moment, my husband realized two things at once. I wasn't who he thought I was. And he was seconds away from losing me forever. Tell me which country you're watching from. Your messages always make my day. And if you're not subscribed yet, join us. There's so much more coming. Now, let's continue. Let me go back 7 years. Before I was Lily Brooks. Before I became invisible. Back to when I was still Lily Harrison and my father was still alive. I grew up in Manhattan. Upper East Side. My father built Harrison Industries from nothing. Medical technology. Innovative, ethical. He employed 3,000 people. Supported their families. Believed business should help people, not just profit from them. I was 21. Finishing my nursing degree. Planning to work in his company's research division. Life was mapped out. Secure. Safe. Then Alexander Sterling's company moved in. Hostile takeover. Aggressive. Brutal. My father fought back. Spent every penny trying to save what he'd built. But Sterling Corporation was bigger. Richer. Relentless. They dismantled us in 6 months. Sold the pieces. Fired everyone. My father's life's work became a line item in Sterling's quarterly earnings report. I remember the day it was final. My father sat in his empty office, everything already packed. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. I built something good, Lily. It mattered. And they destroyed it like it was nothing. 3 months later, he had a heart attack. Gone. Just like that. My mother lasted 6 months. Grief. She stopped eating. Stopped sleeping, just faded. I watched her disappear a little more each day until there was nothing left. Then it was just me and Daniel, my younger brother. 16 years old. Angry, lost. Blaming Sterling for everything. I tried to hold us together. Sold the house. Paid the debts. Put Daniel in school. Got a job as a nurse at Mount Sinai. Changed my name legally. Lily Brooks, nobody, invisible. Because I couldn't walk through Manhattan as Lily Harrison anymore. Every corner reminded me of what we'd lost. Who I'd been. Who I'd never be again. For 5 years I worked. I survived. I built a life from nothing. Daniel graduated, went to college, started to heal. I thought we were safe. I thought the past was finally buried. Then one night, I walked into the and there he was. Alexander Sterling. On a gurney. Bleeding. Unconscious. I should have asked for a different patient. Should have walked away. But I couldn't move. Because this was the man whose signature had destroyed my family. This was the person who'd never once looked back at the lives he'd crushed. And now he was bleeding in front of me. Helpless. Human. I took care of him. Cleaned his wounds. Checked his vitals. Did my job. And when he opened his eyes and looked at me, I waited for recognition. Waited for him to see James Harrison's daughter. But he didn't. He just saw a nurse. Another face in a hospital. Nobody important. And I realized something that night. Alexander Sterling had no idea who I was, no idea what he'd done. He'd moved on, forgotten, while I'd spent 5 years rebuilding from the rubble he'd left behind. He came back the next week, not as a patient, as a visitor. He found me in the staff lounge, knocked on the door, asked if I remembered him. From the I said, "The car accident." He smiled. "That's right. I wanted to thank you. You were kind, professional. I appreciate that." I nodded, just doing my job. He stepped into the room. "Can I take you to dinner?" To say thank you properly. I should have said no, should have made an excuse. But something in me wanted to see him up close. Wanted to understand how someone could destroy so many lives and walk around like it never happened. So I said yes. And that's how it started. Dinner, conversation, lies. He asked about my family. I said they were gone. Where did you grow up? The Midwest. Vague enough to be meaningless. What made you become a nurse? I wanted to help people. All true. All safe. He never dug deeper. Never questioned. Because men like Alexander Sterling don't interrogate the women they date. They just enjoy them until they don't anymore. We dated for 3 months. He was charming, controlled, always perfectly presented. He took me to expensive restaurants, sent flowers to the hospital, texted goodnight. But there was a distance in him, a coldness. Like he was going through the motions of dating without actually feeling anything. And I told myself that was fine. Because I wasn't feeling anything either. I was just observing, studying, trying to understand. Then one night, he told me his board was pressuring him to marry. Image, stability. Shareholders don't trust a bachelor CEO. Too unpredictable. Too much risk. He needed a wife. Someone presentable, undemanding. Someone who wouldn't interfere with his empire. And as he said it, I saw something in his eyes. He was looking at me, calculating, considering. 2 weeks later, he called me to his office. Not his apartment, his office. I walked in. He was behind his desk. A contract in front of him. He didn't stand, didn't smile. Just gestured to the chair across from him. Sit down. I sat. He slid the contract across the desk. Marry me. I stared at him. What? He leaned back. Clinical. Detached. I need a wife. You need security. We're compatible. We both know this isn't a love match. But it could be mutually beneficial. I picked up the contract. Read it. Separate bedrooms. Minimal public appearances. Financial settlement after 5 years. No emotional entanglement clause. Dissolution clause. Prenup. It read like a business deal. Because that's what it was. Why me? I asked. He looked at me. Steady. Unblinking. Because you're self-sufficient. You don't need me. You won't demand things I can't give. And you're not connected to my world. No social climbing. No agenda. You're just a nurse who wants a stable life. I can give you that. In exchange, I get the board off my back. We both win. I should have walked out. Should have thrown the contract in his face. But I looked at him. This man who destroyed my father. Who didn't even remember doing it. And I realized something. If I married him, I could disappear completely. Lily Harrison would be erased forever. Lily Sterling, anonymous wife, would be so far removed from my past that no one would ever connect the dots. I'd be safe. Daniel would be safe. And I'd never have to run again. I signed it. Right there. No hesitation. Alexander barely reacted. Just took the contract. Sent it to legal. Scheduled the wedding for the following week. City Hall. Noon. Bring nothing. We'll handle everything. And that was it. That was how I became Mrs. Alexander Sterling. The wedding was cold. Clinical. 2 witnesses from his legal team. A judge who looked bored. I wore a simple white dress I'd bought the day before from a department store. Alexander wore a suit he'd worn to a board meeting that morning. We said vows that meant nothing. I do. By the power vested. You may kiss. He leaned in. Pressed his lips to mine briefly. Politely. The kind of kiss you give a stranger. And we walked out married. We moved into his penthouse that night. He showed me my room, separate from his. Private bathroom. Walk-in closet. Make yourself comfortable. If you need anything, ask the housekeeper. I'll be traveling for the next week. Business. Board announcement goes out tomorrow. And he left. No honeymoon. No wedding night. Just business as usual. The first year was silence. I worked my nursing shifts at Mount Sinai, night shifts mostly. Came home to an empty penthouse. Slept in my separate room. He traveled constantly. London, Singapore, Tokyo. Sometimes he'd be gone for weeks. When he was home, we'd pass each other in the hallway. He'd nod. I'd nod. We were strangers living under the same roof. Bound by a legal contract and nothing else. I told myself it was fine. This was exactly what I'd signed up for. A marriage of convenience. No emotions. No complications. I was safe. Daniel was safe. The past was buried. But loneliness is a strange thing. It creeps in, settles, becomes part of you. And after a year of being invisible to my own husband, I started to forget what it felt like to be seen. The second year was worse. The initial novelty of the arrangement wore off. What had felt like safety started to feel like suffocation. I'd wake up in my room, alone, walk to the kitchen, eat breakfast alone, go to work, come home. And the pattern would repeat, day after day, week after week. An entire year of existing next to someone without ever truly touching. Alexander stopped coming home some nights. I never asked where he went. That wasn't part of our agreement. But I'd find myself standing at the window of our penthouse on the 34th floor, looking out at the lights of Manhattan, wondering if anyone in the world would notice if I disappeared. Again, there were moments that hurt more than others. Like the night of our first anniversary. I didn't expect him to remember. But some small part of me hoped. I came home from my shift. The penthouse was dark. He was in London. Hadn't even mentioned the date. I sat in my room. Stared at the marriage certificate I'd kept in a drawer. And I realized I'd traded one kind of loneliness for another. Or the time his mother came to visit. She looked at me like I was furniture, asked me polite questions with cold eyes. You're a nurse? How quaint. Alexander told me you're from the Midwest. Must be quite an adjustment to city life. Do you enjoy being married to my son? I smiled. Said yes. Lied smoothly. She didn't believe me, but she didn't care enough to dig deeper. I was just the wife her son had acquired for business purposes. Not worth her attention. I started having dreams, nightmares really, about my father, about the day his company fell, about watching him shrink, disappear, die, and I'd wake up gasping, alone, in a bed in a penthouse owned by the man who'd caused it all. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd married my father's destroyer thinking it would make me safe. Instead, it made me a ghost. One night I made dinner. I don't know why. Maybe I was testing something. Maybe I wanted to see if he would notice I was human. I went to the store, bought ingredients, cooked his favorite meal. I'd learned his preferences by observation. He liked steak, medium rare, roasted vegetables, red wine, simple, precise. I set the table, used the good plates, lit candles, waited. He came home at 11. I heard the door open, heard his footsteps, heard him pause. I held my breath, thought maybe. But he walked past the dining room without looking, went straight to his office, closed the door. I sat there for 10 more minutes. Then I blew out the candles, put the food away, ate alone in my room, and I cried, not because I loved him, but because I'd made myself so invisible that even gestures couldn't be seen. The third year I stopped trying. I worked my shifts, double shifts sometimes, stayed late, picked up extra hours, anything to avoid coming home to that empty penthouse. To that reminder that I'd chosen this. I'd walked into this cage willingly. And now I was too tired to remember how to escape. Alexander traveled more than ever. Sometimes he'd be gone 3 weeks at a time. I forget what his voice sounded like, what his presence felt like. We became strangers who shared an address, nothing more. The only time I saw him was at mandatory events. Charity galas, company functions. Times when he needed a wife on his arm for appearances. He'd text me hours before. Event tonight. Car picks you up at 7. Wear something appropriate. I'd show up. He'd take my hand. We'd smile for cameras, dance if required. He'd introduce me. My wife, Lily. She's a nurse. Isn't that admirable? And I'd stand there, silent, playing my part. Then we'd go home. Separate rooms, separate lives. The performance over for another month. But something shifted in year 3. Something subtle. I started noticing him noticing me. I'd catch him watching me. At events. Across the penthouse. In passing moments. His eyes would linger, just for a second, then he'd look away. Go back to his work, his phone, his empire. But the look was there, brief, confused, like he was seeing something he didn't expect. One night I came home early. He was in the living room, rare. Usually he was in his office or traveling. But he was just sitting there. Glass of scotch. No laptop, no phone. Just sitting. I froze in the doorway. He looked up, saw me. We stared at each other for a long moment. Then I turned to go to my room. Wait, his voice stopped me. I turned back. He gestured to the couch across from him. Sit. Just for a minute. I hesitated. Then sat. We didn't speak, just existed in the same space. It felt strange, foreign, like we'd forgotten how to be near each other without a purpose. After 5 minutes, he spoke. How was work? Fine. Busy. He nodded. You work a lot of nights. I do. Why? Busy. He nodded. You work a lot of nights. I do. Why? Because that's when they need me most. He took a sip of his scotch. Don't you get tired? I meet his eyes. Of night shifts? Or of this? He went still. This? I gestured between us. This arrangement. This performance. This marriage that isn't a marriage. He set down his glass. What do you want me to say? I shook my head. Nothing. I'm not asking for anything. That's the problem, isn't it? We don't ask. We don't need. We just exist. He studied me. That look again. Like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You're different than I thought. Different how? He looked away. I thought you'd be easier to ignore. I felt something crack in my chest. And am I? He didn't answer. Just stood up. Walked to the window. Looked out at the city. Sometimes I forget you're here. Then I'll walk past your room. See the light under the door. And I remember. I have a wife. Someone sharing this space. It's disorienting. I'm sorry, he turned. Don't be. It's not your fault. It's what we agreed to. Exactly. So, why are we having this conversation? He came back, sat down, closer this time. Because I was sitting here tonight, alone, and I realized I'd been alone for 3 years, even though I'm married. And that's starting to feel wrong. I looked at him. What are you saying? He ran a hand through his hair. I don't know. I just know that I used to be fine with this. The distance, the separation, it's what I wanted, what I designed. But lately, every time you leave for a shift, I notice. And every time you come home, I'm aware of it. I hear the door. I know you're here. And it doesn't feel like an inconvenience anymore. It feels like something else. What does it feel like? He met my eyes. Like I'm missing something. I stood up. This isn't part of the contract. He stood too. I know. Then why are you telling me? He stepped closer. Because pretending I don't feel it isn't working anymore. And I think you feel it too. I backed away. You're wrong. He followed. Am I? Because you made dinner 2 months ago. Set the table. Waited. I know because I saw it before I went to my office. And I knew if I sat down, if I ate with you, something would change. So I didn't. I walked past. And I regretted it the second I closed my door. I felt tears burning. Don't do this. Do what? Don't pretend you care now. It's too late. He reached for me. It doesn't have to be. I pulled back. Yes, it does. Because I didn't sign up for feelings. I signed up for safety, distance, invisibility, and if that changes, I don't know how to be here anymore. He dropped his hand. Why? Because being invisible is lonely, Alexander. But being seen by someone who rejected you for 3 years is worse. I walked to my room, locked the door, slid down against it, and I felt the walls I'd built starting to crack, starting to crumble. And I knew everything was about to change. 2 weeks later, the text came. I was sitting on the couch. Alexander was across from me, working on his laptop. We were existing in our usual silence. Then my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I picked it up, glanced at the screen, and my entire world stopped. The name on my phone was one I hadn't seen in 7 years, one I thought I'd never see again, one that shouldn't exist. Because the person who owned that name was supposed to be dead. Daniel, my brother. The only family I had left before I erased myself. Before I became Lily Brooks. Before I married a man who would never recognize me as anyone else. The message was short. 2 words. They know. That's all it said. They know, but it was enough. Enough to shatter 3 years of carefully built silence. Enough to make my hands shake. Enough to make me forget that Alexander was watching. I looked up, and that's when I saw it. The way he'd gone completely still. Laptop forgotten. Eyes locked on me. Not the distant look I was used to. Something else. Something sharp. Something possessive. Who is that? His voice was low. Controlled. But there was an edge to it I'd never heard before. A danger. I set the phone down. Wrong number. He stood up. Slowly. Crossed the room. Sat down next to me. Too close. His hand closed around my wrist. Gentle but firm. Don't lie to me, Lily. Who texted you? I pulled my hand back. It's nothing. He didn't move. Didn't look away. Tell me his name. I felt my heart pounding. Felt the walls I'd built starting to crumble. You don't get to ask me that. We're not that kind of married. Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, anger, realization. Maybe not. But you're my wife. And I just watched you look at your phone like the world was ending. I stood up. Needed distance. Needed to think. Alexander. Drop it. He stood too. Followed me. I'm not dropping it. You're terrified. I can see it. Who is he? I spun around. Why do you care? You've ignored me for 3 years. I'm just a name on a contract. A convenience. Why does it matter if someone from my past texts me? He stepped closer, his jaw tight. Because the way you looked at that phone, that wasn't your past. That was fear. And if someone is making my wife afraid, I need to know who. I laughed. A bitter sound. Your wife. I'm not your wife, Alexander. I'm your employee. Your legal obligation. Don't pretend this is about caring. He grabbed my shoulders. Not hard, but firm enough to make me look at him. You think I don't care? You think I haven't noticed you? I see you, Lily. I see you every damn day. And I just watched someone shatter you with 2 words. So tell me, who is he? I pulled away, shaking. You don't see me. You never have. And I walked to my bedroom, locked the door, slid down against it, put my face in my hands. And for the first time in 3 years, I let myself break. On the other side of the door, I heard him, standing there, breathing. Then his voice quiet, broken. I see you. And I felt something crack open in my chest. Something I'd kept locked away. Something dangerous. I didn't answer. And eventually I heard him walk away. But I knew this was the beginning of the end. Because Daniel's text meant one thing. My past was coming. And when it arrived, Alexander would learn the truth. That the invisible nurse he married wasn't who she claimed to be. That Lily Brooks was a lie. And that the woman sitting in his penthouse was someone he should have been afraid of all along. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bed, staring at Daniel's message. They know. Who knew? How much did they know? And how long did I have before everything I'd built came crashing down? By morning, I'd made a decision. I needed to leave. Pack a bag. Disappear before Alexander started asking questions I couldn't answer. Before he looked close enough to see the cracks. Before he realized that marrying me was the worst mistake of his life. I waited until he left for work. Then I started packing. One bag, essentials, clothes, cash I'd been saving, a burner phone. I'd done this before. I could do it again. I could vanish, become someone else, start over. I was good at it. I was almost done when I heard the door open. I froze, turned. Alexander was standing in my doorway. Still in his suit, supposed to be at the office, staring at my half-packed bag. Going somewhere. His voice was calm. Too calm. I straightened. That's none of your business. He stepped into the room. Closed the door behind him. Actually, it is. You're my wife. You don't get to just leave. I zipped the bag. Watch me. He crossed his arms. Why are you running, Lily? I threw the bag over my shoulder. Because it's what I do. He moved to block the door. Not this time. I glared at him. Get out of my way, Alexander. He didn't move. Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. I can help. I laughed. A harsh sound. You can't help. You don't even know what you're offering to help with. Then tell me. I shook my head. Moving isn't caring, Alexander. And you've made it very clear for 3 years that you don't care about me. He flinched, like I'd struck him. That's not true. Yes, it is. I pushed past him, or I tried to. But his hand caught my arm, pulled me back. I said I see you, and I meant it. I've seen you every single day of this marriage. I just didn't know how to reach you. I pulled free. You didn't try. He ran a hand through his hair. Frustrated. You're right. I didn't. I thought this was what you wanted. Distance. No complications. A marriage on paper. But last night, when that text came through, I realized something. I don't want that anymore. I stared at him. What are you talking about? He stepped closer. I'm talking about the fact that I just spent the entire night awake, thinking about who texted you. Why you looked so scared. What I would do if you left. And I realized I can't lose you. I shook my head. You never had me. He reached out, touched my face, gentle, tentative. Then let me try. Tell me what's going on. Let me help. I closed my eyes. You can't help. Not with this. Why not? Because if you knew who I really was, you'd hate me. He went still. What does that mean? I opened my eyes. Met his gaze. It means Lily Brooks isn't my real name. It means I've been lying to you since the day we met. It means everything you think you know about me is a carefully constructed fiction. And if you knew the truth, you'd understand why I have to leave. His hand dropped, his face unreadable. Then tell me the truth. I can't. Why? Because it will destroy you. And despite everything, I don't want to do that. He stared at me. Long, hard. Then do it anyway. Destroy me. But don't run. I felt tears burning. You don't know what you're asking. He stepped closer. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to let me see you. The real you. Not the version you think I want. I shook my head. The real me will ruin your life. He took my face in both hands. Then ruin it. But don't disappear. I searched his eyes, looking for the lie, the angle, the control. But all I saw was desperation. And something that looked almost like fear. I pulled back, grabbed my bag. I need time. He didn't stop me this time. How much time? I don't know. He nodded. Slowly. I'll be here. When you're ready, I'll be here. I walked past him, out of the bedroom, out of the penthouse, into the cold morning air of New York, and I didn't look back. I went to the one place I knew was safe. A small apartment in Queens I'd kept as insurance. A place Alexander didn't know about. A place where I could think. Figure out my next move. Decide if I was going to run or stay and face what was coming. I'd been there an hour when my phone rang. Not the phone Alexander knew about. My other phone. The one connected to my real life. I answered. Daniel? Lily. His voice. God, it had been so long. Are you safe? For now. What's happening? He sighed. Dad's company. The one Sterling destroyed 7 years ago. Someone's been digging. Asking questions. Connecting dots. They know you're alive. They know you changed your name. And they're starting to wonder why Alexander Sterling's wife has the same birthday as the daughter of the man whose company he crushed. I closed my eyes. How long do I have? A week. Maybe less. The board's already asking questions. If they figure out you married him intentionally, they'll think it's corporate espionage. Revenge. They'll come after you. After him. I leaned against the wall. I didn't marry him for revenge, Daniel. I know, but they won't believe that. I ran a hand through my hair. What do I do? He was quiet for a long moment. Tell him, before they do. At least give him the chance to hear it from you. I hung up, sat on the floor, and tried to figure out how to tell my husband that I was the daughter of the man whose life he destroyed, that I'd married him not for love, not for security, but because I'd needed to disappear so badly that I'd chosen the one, man who would never think to look for me in his own home. 3 days passed. I didn't go back to the penthouse. Didn't answer Alexander's calls. I just existed in that small apartment, trying to find the courage to face what I'd done. Trying to find the words. On the 4th day, there was a knock on the door. I froze. Checked the peephole. Alexander. Standing in the hallway of a building he shouldn't even know existed. Looking exhausted. I opened the door. How did you find me? He held up a piece of paper. Property records. You're still listed as the owner. Smart, but not smart enough. I stepped back. Let him in. He walked past me. Looked around the tiny apartment. This is where you've been. I closed the door. What do you want, Alexander? He turned to face me. I want the truth. All of it. No more hiding. I crossed my arms. You won't like it. I don't care. Tell me anyway. I took a breath. My real name is Lily Harrison. My father was James Harrison, CEO of Harrison Industries. 7 years ago, your company initiated a hostile takeover. Crushed us. Dismantled everything my father built. He had a heart attack 3 months later. Died. My mother followed 6 months after that. Grief. I had a younger brother, Daniel. We were all that was left. Alexander had gone completely still. Listening. His face unreadable. I kept going. I changed my name. Started over. Became a nurse. I wanted to disappear. Forget. Move on. Then I saw your face on a hospital form, and I realized who you were. The man who destroyed my family. Did you marry me for revenge? His voice was quiet, Dangerous. I met his eyes. No. I married you because you were the one person who would never look at me and see James Harrison's daughter. You'd already forgotten we existed. I was safe with you, invisible, and that's all I wanted. He turned away, paced, ran his hands through his hair. So everything between us, that was all a lie. I shook my head. The marriage was a lie, but everything else, that was real. The loneliness, the invisibility, the way I felt like I was disappearing, that was all real. He spun back around. You should have told me. I know. Why didn't you? Because I was afraid. Of what? That you'd look at me the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm the enemy. He stared at me, long and hard. Are you? Am I what? My enemy. I felt tears burning. I don't know. Am I yours? He crossed the room, stood inches from me. No, you're my wife. Even knowing who I am, especially knowing who you are. I shook my head. You don't mean that. He grabbed my face, forced me to look at him. I spent the last 4 days losing my mind, thinking you'd left, thinking I'd never see you again. Do you know what that did to me? I tried to pull away. Alexander, listen to me. He didn't let go. For 3 years, I told myself I didn't care, that you were just a contract, a convenience. But the second you walked out that door, I knew I'd been lying to myself. I closed my eyes. Don't do this. Do what? Don't make this about feelings. This is about survival. About protecting yourself from what's coming. He pulled back. Confused. What's coming? I opened my eyes. You're bored. They're investigating. They've connected the dots. Daughter of James Harrison. Wife of Alexander Sterling. They think I married you for revenge. Corporate espionage. They're going to come after both of us. He dropped his hands. Stepped back. Processed. How long have you known? Since the text. Daniel warned me. We have maybe a week before it goes public. He turned away, paced. That CEO mind working, calculating, always 3 moves ahead. Then we control the narrative. We tell them first. I shook my head. That won't work. They won't believe it wasn't revenge. Not after what you did to my father's company. He faced me again. Sharp. Focused. Then we make them believe it. We show them the contract, the terms, the fact that you gained nothing from this marriage, that you've lived separate from my business entirely. You've never once accessed my files, my accounts, my strategy. You've been invisible. I laughed. Bitter, broken. You think a contract will convince them? They'll say I was playing the long game. Waiting, watching, learning. They'll say 3 years of patience is exactly what a revenge plot looks like. He stepped closer. Then we give them something else. What? He took my hand. The truth. That I'm in love with my wife. And I don't care who she used to be. I yanked my hand back. Don't say things you don't mean. Not now. Not like this. He grabbed both my hands. Held tight. I mean it. I've meant it for longer than I want to admit. I just didn't know how to say it. Didn't know if I was allowed to feel it. We had a contract. Boundaries. Rules. And I broke every one of them in my head months ago. I felt tears falling. Hot. Angry. You rejected me for 3 years. You walked past me like I was furniture. You traveled for weeks and never once called. You made me believe I was nothing. And now you want me to believe you love me? Because it's convenient? Because I'm in trouble? No, I shook my head. I don't believe you. He flinched, like I'd slapped him. Then let me prove it. How? By standing next to you when they come for you. By telling the board exactly who you are and daring them to say it matters. By choosing you over the company I built. Over my reputation. Over everything. I searched his face. You'd do that? Lose everything? For me? Yes, the word was simple, final, absolute. But I don't want you to. I said, I don't want you to lose everything because of me, because of who my father was, because of what I did. He pulled me closer. Then you don't understand. You are everything. The company, the board, the reputation, that's all just noise. But you're the first real thing I've had in years. I closed my eyes. When did you know that you felt this way? He was quiet for a moment. The night you made dinner. I saw it before I walked past. Saw the candles, the effort, the hope. And I knew if I sat down, if I ate with you, I'd have to admit I wanted more than the contract allowed. So I walked away, and I've regretted it every day since. I opened my eyes, looked at him, really looked. Saw the exhaustion, the fear, the desperate hope. You're serious about all of this? He nodded. I'm terrified. I've never been this scared in my life because I don't know how to be this vulnerable. I don't know how to want something I can't control. But I want you. And I'll fight the entire world if that's what it takes. I felt something shift, something break, something rebuild, then fight. He pulled me into his arms, held me tight. I will. I promise. We stood there, in that tiny Queen's apartment, holding each other. And for the first time, it felt like we were actually together, actually married, actually real. What do we do now? I whispered. He pulled back, looked at me. We go back. We prepare. We face them together, and we don't back down. Not an inch. I nodded. Okay. He touched my face. You're not alone anymore. I know. And neither are you. We went back to the penthouse that night. Spent the next 2 days preparing. Alexander called his lawyers. Prepared documents. Built a case. He was in full CEO mode. Strategic. Ruthless. But different. Because every hour he'd stop. Find me. Pull me close. Ask if I was okay. Touch my face. Kiss my forehead. Remind me we were in this together. The second night, I found him in his office at 2 a.m. He was reviewing financial records, years of them. What are you doing? I asked. He looked up, building a timeline, showing that you never benefited from our marriage. That there was no corporate espionage, no revenge plot. Just a woman trying to survive and a man too blind to see what was right in front of him. I sat down across from him. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Why? He set down his pen. Because 7 years ago, I destroyed your father's company. I didn't know him. Didn't think about the people behind the business. Just saw an opportunity. A target. And I took it. I built my entire career on moves like that. Cold, calculated, ruthless. But I never once thought about the daughters left behind. The families destroyed. The lives ruined. Until now. He stood up, came around the desk, sat next to me. I can't change what I did. I can't bring your father back. I can't undo the pain. But I can stand with you now. I can tell them the truth, that the woman I married is stronger than I ever was, that she survived what I did and still managed to not become me. I felt tears falling. I wanted to hate you. When I first saw you in that hospital, I wanted to hate you so much. Did you? I shook my head. No, I just wanted you to see me, to acknowledge what you'd done, but you didn't. You just saw a nurse. And I realized hatred takes too much energy. So I just became invisible instead. He wiped my tears. I see you now. And I'll make sure everyone else does too. Not as James Harrison's daughter. Not as my rejected wife. But as Lily, the woman who's been surviving while I was just existing. The woman who taught me what strength actually looks like. I leaned against him. I'm scared. Me too. What if they don't believe us? Then we walk away. Together, both of us. Both of us. The night before the board meeting, we sat on the balcony, looking out at Manhattan. The city that had taken so much from both of us, given us so much. Witnessed our destruction and our rebuilding. Alexander handed me a glass of wine. Tomorrow changes everything. I took the glass. What if it ends everything instead? He sat beside me. Then we'll start something new. You'd really walk away from Sterling Corporation? For you? Yes, without hesitation. I looked at him. I don't want you to. I want you to keep what you built. But I also want you to know who built it. And what it cost. He set down his glass, turned to me. I know what it cost. I'm looking at the cost right now. A woman who lost everything because I wanted more. A family destroyed because I wanted to win. I can't change that. But I can change who I am going forward. And I choose to be the man who fights for you. Not the man who destroys for profit. We went back to the penthouse together. Spent the next 2 days preparing. Alexander called an emergency board meeting. Prepared a statement. Hired lawyers. He was in full CEO mode. Controlled, strategic, but different. Because every few hours he'd stop. Find me. Touch my face. Ask if I was okay. And I'd realize this was what it felt like to be seen. The night before the board meeting, we sat on the couch. The same couch where everything had started to unravel. He was holding my hand. A simple gesture. But it felt monumental. Are you scared? He asked. Terrified. He squeezed my hand. Me too. I looked at him. You're never scared. He smiled. Sad. I'm scared of losing you. I've been scared of that since the moment I realized I cared. I leaned my head on his shoulder. What if they don't believe us? Then we fight. Together. I closed my eyes. I never meant to hurt you. I know. Do you? Really? He turned, made me look at him. Yes, because if you'd wanted to hurt me, you had 3 years to do it. You had access, information, opportunity, but you didn't take any of it. You just existed, quiet, invisible. That's not revenge. That's survival. I felt something break open in my chest. Something that had been locked for so long. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. For not hating me. He kissed me. Soft. Gentle. I could never hate you. I love you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. The board meeting was brutal. We walked in together. His hand in mine. 12 executives around a massive table. Cold faces. Calculating eyes. They'd already made up their minds. We were guilty until proven innocent. Alexander stood at the head of the table. Me beside him. Equal, visible, real. He didn't waste time. Didn't ease into it. Just laid it out. Clean, direct, devastating. My wife's real name is Lily Harrison. She's the daughter of James Harrison, CEO of Harrison Industries. The company Sterling Corporation acquired 7 years ago. The acquisition that I led. The one that destroyed her family. The room erupted. Questions, accusations, outrage. How long have you known? Did she have access to confidential information? Is this corporate espionage? Has she been leaking to competitors? The chairman slammed his hand on the table. Silence. Everyone stopped. He looked at Alexander. Continue. Alexander squeezed my hand. Then let me go. Stood alone. I met Lily 3 years ago. She was working as a nurse at Mount Sinai Hospital. I had no idea who she was, who her father was, what connection she had to my past. She didn't tell me. Didn't use it as leverage. Didn't demand anything. We dated. I proposed a marriage of convenience. She accepted. We signed a contract. Got married. And lived separate lives for 3 years. One board member stood, voice dripping with suspicion. And we're supposed to believe she had no ulterior motive, that she just happened to marry the man who destroyed her family. Out of coincidence. Alexander's jaw tightened. No, not coincidence. Survival. She married me because I was the last person on earth who would recognize her. She needed to disappear. And I provided that. Unknowingly, but effectively. Another executive leaned forward. Has she accessed company files? Financial records? Strategy documents? Alexander didn't hesitate. No, she's never been to Sterling Corporation headquarters. Never asked about my work. Never showed interest in my business. She worked her nursing shifts. Came home. Lived her own life. Completely separate from mine. We have documentation proving that. 3 years of separate bank accounts. Separate phone records. Separate everything. The CFO spoke up. Then why reveal this now? Why not just continue hiding? Alexander looked at me, then back at them. Because someone started investigating, connecting dots. And in a week, this would have come out anyway. Messier, more damaging. This way, we control the narrative. We tell you the truth. And we ask you to accept it. The chairman stood. Paced. This is a disaster, Sterling. You married the daughter of a man you destroyed. Even if it was unintentional, the optics are catastrophic. Shareholders will panic. Competitors will use this against us. The media will have a field day. You need to divorce her. Immediately. Cut ties. Minimize damage. Alexander went very still. No. The room went silent. What did you say? No. I'm not divorcing my wife. The chairman's face went red. This isn't a request. It's damage control. Alexander stepped forward. I don't care. She's my wife. And I'm not ending my marriage to protect shareholders' feelings. Another executive stood. You're letting emotions cloud your judgment. This is business. She's a liability. Alexander's voice dropped. Dangerous. Deadly calm. She's my wife, not a liability. Not a business decision, my wife. And if you can't accept that, you'll have my resignation by end of day." The room exploded. "Are you insane? You'd throw away everything you built for her? For the daughter of a man you destroyed?" Alexander didn't flinch. "Yes, without question. Without hesitation. Because everything I built means nothing if I lose her in the process. I took enough from her family. I won't take her dignity now." I stepped forward. Couldn't stay silent anymore. "You're all acting like I'm the villain here. Like I orchestrated some elaborate revenge plot. But let me tell you what actually happened. My father built a company that helped people, save lives. And your CEO destroyed it. Not because it was failing, not because it was corrupt, but because he could. Because it made business sense. My father died of a heart attack 3 months later. My mother died of grief 6 months after that. I was 21 years old. Suddenly alone. Suddenly broke. Suddenly nobody. I looked around the room, at their faces. Some uncomfortable, some unmoved. I changed my name, started over. Became a nurse. Worked my way up from nothing. And when I met Alexander Sterling in a hospital, I had a choice. I could tell him who I was, demand acknowledgement, demand justice, demand something. Or I could stay silent, stay invisible, stay safe. I chose safety, not revenge, safety. And I married him because he offered me security without recognition. That's all I wanted. To be so invisible that my past could never find me again. The room was silent now. I kept going. I never accessed his files, never leaked information, never sabotaged anything. I just lived, quietly, separately, for 3 years. Until someone started digging, until my past came back. And now you're all sitting here treating me like I'm the criminal. Like I'm the one who destroyed lives. When all I did was survive what was done to me. The chairman looked at Alexander. "Is this true? All of it?" Alexander nodded. "Every word. I destroyed her family. She survived it. Rebuilt herself. And I was too blind to see who she was until she told me. That's on me, not her." The chairman sat down, heavily. "This is unprecedented. I don't know how we move forward from this." Alexander sat down next to me, took my hand. "Then let me help you. We draft legal agreements. Separation of assets, independent audits, whatever you need to feel secure. But my wife stays, non-negotiable." Another board member spoke. Older, calmer. "I have a question for Mrs. Sterling." I looked at him. "Why didn't you take revenge? You had 3 years of access, 3 years of opportunity. Why didn't you use it?" I met his eyes. "Because I'm not my husband. I don't destroy things just because I can." I thought about it. In the beginning. Thought about ways I could hurt him the way he hurt me. But revenge doesn't bring people back. It just makes you emptier. And I was already empty enough. He nodded slowly. "That takes strength. More strength than most people have. Thank you." The chairman looked around the table. "We need to vote." "On what exactly?" "Whether we accept this situation. Whether we require Sterling's resignation. Whether we move forward or cut ties. Let's call it now." The vote took 10 minutes. Whispered conversations, calculating looks, political maneuvering. Finally, the chairman spoke. 8-4, we accept the situation, with conditions. Legal separation of assets, quarterly audits, public statement. And Sterling, you're on probation. One more scandal, one more liability, and you're out. Understood? Alexander stood, pulled me up with him. Understood. And thank you. The chairman nodded. Don't thank us yet. The real test is public reaction. If this blows up, we'll revisit. Alexander squeezed my hand. It won't, because we're telling the truth. And sometimes that's enough. We walked out of that boardroom together, his hand in mine. I was shaking. Adrenaline, fear, relief, all mixed together. We got to the elevator. Doors closed. And I broke. Tears, sobs, 3 years of holding everything in, all coming out at once. Alexander pulled me into his arms, held me tight. You did it. You stood up to them. I shook my head against his chest. We did it. Together. That night we sat on the balcony again. Same spot. Different people. He poured wine, handed me a glass. To surviving. I clinked my glass against his. To truth. We drank. Sat in silence. Finally, he spoke. I called Daniel today. I looked at him. Shocked. You what? I tracked him down. Called him. Asked if he'd meet with us. Why would you do that? Because he's your brother. The only family you have left. And I took your parents from you. I can't give them back. But I can try to give you your brother back. If he'll let me. I felt tears starting again. What did he say? He said yes. He'll be here tomorrow. For dinner. If you want. I want. I whispered. Alexander reached over. Took my hand. I'm not asking him to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But I'm going to apologize. Tell him what I told the board. That I destroyed your father's company without thinking about the people behind it. And that I'm sorry. That I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be better than I was. The next night, Daniel came. I opened the door. Saw my baby brother, not a baby anymore. 23 years old. Tall. Strong. Angry. But here, Lily. His voice broke. We hugged. Cried. Held each other. 7 years of separation. 7 years of pain. Finally ending. Alexander stood back. Gave us space. Finally, I pulled back. Come in. Meet my husband. Daniel's face hardened. But he came in. Sat down. Alexander sat across from him. Didn't try to shake hands. Didn't smile. Just looked at him. Direct. Honest. I know who you are. I know what I did to your family. And I know sorry doesn't fix it. Doesn't bring them back. Doesn't undo the damage. But I'm sorry anyway. Daniel stared at him. Cold. You destroyed everything my father built. Everything we had. And you didn't even remember. Didn't even think about it. To you, it was just business. But to us, it was our lives, our futures, our family. Alexander nodded. You're right. I didn't think about it. I should have. I should have asked who I was hurting. What it would cost beyond the numbers on a spreadsheet. But I didn't. I just moved forward, ruthless, efficient, successful, and I was wrong. Daniel leaned forward. You were more than wrong. You were evil. Alexander didn't flinch. Yes, I was. Daniel sat back, surprised by the admission. You're not going to defend yourself? Explain how it was just business. How you had to make hard choices. Alexander shook his head. No, because those would be excuses. And your father deserved better than excuses. Your family deserved better. Lily deserved better. Daniel looked at me, looked back at Alexander. Why did you marry her? Alexander met his eyes. Because my board demanded I marry someone. And Lily was perfect. Undemanding, uninvolved, invisible. I didn't know who she was. Didn't know her connection to my past. I just saw a woman who wanted security without complication, and I gave her that. Daniel's voice was harsh. So you married my sister, ignored her for 3 years, treated her like furniture, and now you want credit for finally noticing her? Alexander's voice was quiet. No, I don't want credit. I want to do better. I want to be worthy of her, even though I'm not sure that's possible. Daniel turned to me. Why are you staying with him? After everything he did, everything he represents. I could run again, start over somewhere new. But I'm tired of running, tired of being invisible. And despite everything, he sees me now. Really sees me. And that's what I needed all along. Daniel shook his head. That's not enough. Seeing you isn't enough. He needs to do more than notice you exist. He needs to make amends. Alexander spoke up. Tell me how. Tell me what would make this right. And if it's possible, I'll do it. Daniel looked at him. Hard. Measuring. You can't bring my parents back. No. Can you undo the damage you did? No. Can you restore my father's company? No. Then there's nothing you can do. It's already done. We already survived it. We already rebuilt. And now I just have to decide if I trust you with my sister. Alexander nodded. I understand. And for what it's worth, I don't trust myself with her either. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I spent 3 years treating her like she was nothing. I don't deserve her forgiveness. And I don't deserve yours. But I'm asking anyway, because I love her. And I want to be part of her life. Which means I want to be part of yours too. If you'll let me. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Finally, he looked at me. What do you want, Lily? I want my brother back. I want a family again. Even if it's a strange, broken, complicated family. Even if it's not what I thought it would be. I just want to stop being alone. Daniel's face softened. You were never alone. I was always out there. Always thinking about you. Always hoping you were okay. I know. But now we can actually be together. If you're willing to try. He looked at Alexander, looked back at me, then nodded. Slowly, I'll try. For you, not for him. For you, I started crying again. Thank you. He stood up, came over, hugged me, whispered in my ear. If he hurts you again, I'll destroy him the way he destroyed Dad. I don't care how powerful he is. I smiled through tears. I know, and I love you for it. The 3 of us had dinner that night. Awkward, tense, but real. Daniel asked Alexander questions. Hard questions. About the acquisition. About his business practices. About his values. Alexander answered everything. Honestly. No spin. No justification. Just truth. By the end of the night, they weren't friends. But they weren't enemies either. They were 2 men trying to navigate an impossible situation. For my sake. And that was enough. 6 months later, everything changed, not all at once, but gradually, steadily, beautifully. Alexander and I moved into a new penthouse, different address, fresh start. We decorated it together, our space, not his, not mine, ours. We hired an interior designer who asked what style we wanted. We looked at each other, had no idea, because we'd never built anything together before. So we figured it out, room by room, choice by choice, together. I still work at Mount Sinai, still do night shifts sometimes. Alexander wanted me to quit, be safe. But I told him no. I'm not giving up the one part of my life that was always real. Always mine, always true. He understood. Now he shows up sometimes after my shifts. Takes me to late dinners at diners in Queens. Holds my hand across sticky tables. Asks about my patients. My day. My feelings. And I tell him. Everything. He's different too. Still ruthless in business. Still brilliant. Still strategic. But he asks different questions now. When he's considering an acquisition, he asks about the people. The families, the lives that will be affected. He doesn't always say no, but he thinks before he moves, considers the cost, weighs the damage, and sometimes he chooses differently. Not often, but sometimes. And that matters. We fight sometimes about his work hours, about my refusal to quit nursing, about how he still tries to control everything, about how I still hide when I'm scared, but we fight together. In the same room, with words instead of silence. And we always come back together, always apologize, always try to do better. Daniel comes to dinner once a month, still tense with Alexander, still protective of me, but trying. Last month, Alexander offered him a job at Sterling Corporation, in the ethics division that Alexander created after our truth came out. A department dedicated to evaluating the human cost of business decisions. Daniel said he'd think about it. 2 weeks later, he accepted. Not because he forgave Alexander, but because he believed in the work, in the possibility of change, in making sure what happened to our family doesn't happen to others. There's a photo on our mantle now, from our real wedding. Not the City Hall one. The one we had 6 months after the truth came out. Small, intimate, on a rooftop in Brooklyn. Daniel walked me down the aisle. A short aisle, maybe 20 feet. But it felt like miles, because I was choosing this. Choosing Alexander, choosing us, for real this time. No contract, no convenience, no hiding, just love, messy, complicated, hard-earned, real. In the photo, Alexander is looking at me like I'm the only person in the world, and I'm looking at him the same way. Because that's what we learned, how to see each other. Really see beyond the past, beyond the pain, beyond the versions we thought we had to be. Just two broken people who found each other in the worst possible way and chose to rebuild together. Last week we went to the cemetery, both of us, to visit my parents' graves. I hadn't been there in years. Too painful. Too hard. But Alexander said he wanted to pay his respects, apologize, even if they couldn't hear. So we went. I stood there, told them about my life, about Daniel, about the man I married, about how complicated everything had become, about how I was finally okay. Alexander knelt down, put his hand on my father's grave, said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did, for what I took, for the pain I caused. I can't change it, but I promise I'll spend every day trying to be better, trying to deserve your daughter, trying to honor what you built by building something better myself. I stood there, crying, watching my husband apologize to my dead father, and I felt something release. Something I'd been holding for 7 years. The weight, the anger, the grief, not gone, but lighter. We're building something now. Not a contract, not an arrangement. A life, messy, complicated, real. And every morning when I wake up next to him, I'm grateful. Grateful I stopped running. Grateful I let him see me. Grateful that sometimes the worst mistakes lead to the best outcomes. Because loving someone who destroyed your past forces you to build a better future. And choosing someone despite the pain forces you both to be better than you were. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm Lily Harrison Sterling, daughter of James Harrison, wife of Alexander Sterling, nurse at Mount Sinai, sister to Daniel, and myself, fully, completely, finally. And Alexander sees all of it, the good, the bad, the broken, the healing, and he loves it all, not despite who I am, because of who I am. This is what I've learned. You can't love someone while pretending you don't exist. You can't be loved if you won't let yourself be seen. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop running, stand still, and let the truth catch up to you. Even if the truth is devastating, even if it costs everything. Because on the other side of truth is the possibility of something real, and real is worth fighting for. The end. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If it reached your heart, even just a little, do not leave without letting me know. A simple heart in the comments is enough. And if you want to feel more stories like this, stories about love that survives the truth, about women who stop running and men who finally learn to see, make sure to subscribe to Dramora Stories. Every story here is a reminder that sometimes the person you're most afraid of becoming is exactly who you were always meant to be. And maybe that is true for you too.